And now, Ed will give us a somewhat less confrontational briefing entitled The Making of Deaf Cult. And here's the part we just said. After joining Golden Speakers in February of last year, he just won the Toastmasters 2008 State Championship, which I've just explained, with a version of this speech. Ed was inspired to write this conspiracy rant by years of drinking golfers' Kool-Aid. After hitting thousands of golf balls into Walton Lake with no discernible cure, he concluded that some unseen forces must be toying with him.
Right, Hal? You know that, Hal.
And so, from such trials and tribulations comes the brilliance of Death Cult Drinks Kool-Aid for Breakfast. And now, for a Kool-Aid memoir, here's Ed.
Thus was born Death Cult. On Google. When I said in the meeting, when we said we need 4 people to do the humorous speech contest, and I had never written a comedy line before, I said, I'll do it. So I went straight home to Google, and sure enough, comedy right, you get a whole menu of different things. Now, it said something about alliteration, but Steve and I didn't think that would be funny, so we didn't use any alliterations. But it did say that if you take 2 things that don't normally collide and crash them together and exaggerate the results, that's sometimes funny. So I thought, what would be the clash between Homeland Security and Toastmasters? Well, Toastmasters for self-expression. What if Homeland Security was against it? Not a big stretch if you've ever gone. Not a big stretch if you've ever been to the airport and seen that sign that says, make a joke about a bomb, go to jail. So, what if our government doesn't want the same things for us that we want for ourselves? And what if there are forces influencing our government that are hidden from view? And what if there are organizations working for what we really do want for ourselves that the government opposes? And finally, what if all of that could somehow be made funny? Once I got the premise of Homeland Security's and Toastmasters, I looked for some other way to distinguish this speech from the competition I'd run into. I came up with 3. The first one, as Gene pointed out, I'd give this speech in character. Rather than as Ed, I would be the agent. Second, I involved the audience. You guys are all moles that are getting woken up. And third, I always gave the speech to the group that I was speaking to. So the first time I gave it was Golden Speakers here. So I had all these inside jokes about Golden Speakers. Tom Trainer was Joseph Stalin, and I had a big picture of him up there. But then when I went on to the Toastmasters outside of this club, I had to drop all of those inside jokes and make it more generically about Toastmasters. And then finally, when I gave it tonight, I got, if I just had those Toastmasters jokes, it would exclude all of the folks from Fairfield who were coming. So I broadened it to Fairfield. So there actually have been 3 different versions. You heard one that's pretty close to what I won state with, but not exactly. There are 3 real experiences that I think highlight how this process went for me. Gene's already told the capper, but the first one was in this club when they said, who's going to do this humorous speech? And I threw my hat over the wall, said I'll do it even though I don't have a clue how. The second one came at State in my car about an hour before my speech, went out to the car with the idea of meditating. And all of a sudden this huge fear just started welling up all over my chest. And I got that I had a choice. I could either try to dance around it and, you know, put it off to the side and do my speech, or I could use that fear. I could speak right through it. And when I realized that I could do that, started having all of this stuff well up. I started growling and yelling in the car. If you had walked by that car, you would have thought something weird. This guy sitting in the car by himself. And I went straight in there and I used that energy. I let my hand shake. I let my voice quiver. And it was power. And then the third experience was the one that Jean talked about. When she leaned into my ear and whispered, before passing out, when they said, Ed Hipp, she said, what a rush. And it was all going like this. And in that moment, a lifetime of interference conversation that goes on in my head that says, you can't. You're not quite enough. Died. Yeah, let's have an applause for that. It's death cult. The fear could die too. So, the 2.5 months since then have been altered for me. It's been well worth all the energy I put in it. I don't put up with my own interference patterns like I used to. I used to hear them and it would be, okay, well then I won't do that. Now I say, yeah, I will do that. I speak up for myself more now. My dreams are actually more vivid. I feel like I'm living much bigger. And for all of that, I want to say thank yous to a few folks. Now don't listen to these just as kind of, well, he's saying thank you, because this is part of my process too. You'll hear some of my process in each one of these thank yous. I'm going to start with Lenora. Where are you, Lenora? Lenora put me on her email blast last year at exactly this time, inviting me to come to this meeting. And without it, who knows what would have happened. Thank you. Tom Trainer, thank you for founding this club many years ago and being the pillar of it that you are. Jean, thank you for being my road trip buddy and giving me all the evaluations and helping me shape this speech. And thank you for sitting in the middle of that state championship audience with the intention that you would be the first person to laugh at every joke, and you would laugh so much that everybody had to laugh. I know for a fact, I heard later, that I won by a squeaker, and there's a thing, as Lenore put on there, of how much people laugh, and I know I won only because Jean was seeding that laughter. Will my 4 questioners please stand up? Where's my 4 questioners? Vish, Sylvia's already standing, Eddie and Steve. Let's hear it for the rest of the cast. All the Golden Speakers members, I thank you for all of your encouragement, your friendship, and your love through this first year, your evaluations that have helped me get better, and for listening to all my conspiracy rants disguised as speeches. I want to thank my wife, Dell, for laying awake late into the night on Tuesdays listening to my debriefs of my speeches. Yeah, bigger, bigger. And I want to thank my coach, Steve White. Please stand up, Steve, so they can see you. If you've hated his plays, he's agreed to dump the Shakespeare crap, so he will be putting on something good. When Steve announced that he was doing acting classes, I went. And I thought, well, it's not acting, but speech is a form of acting. So here's the thing. What Steve is really a stand for in his classes, it's not really about acting. It's about being present. So if you'd like to act, or if you'd just like to public speak, or if you'd just like to communicate, or if you'd just like to be present to what's going on around you, Steve has a class that'll knock your socks off. And being in Toastmasters is a fantastic access. So join Toastmasters tonight, go to Steve tomorrow night. My last thank yous are to all of you who came. Steve's always told me, you get your speech out of the audience. And so thank you for being so juicy as an audience.